Greetings, I'm Old Man Zoo, and this is a little bit of speculation, a little bit of filling in the missing pieces. So I had this idea for sort of just a short video, because I'm actually actively working on the next symbolism video, and I wanted to get it out this month, but it ended up being a lot bigger than I anticipated. So in the short term, I wanted to release a much shorter video that I could kind of get out to kind of keep interest in the channel. And I had this idea of looking at the Castlevania timeline, the official timeline, and sort of filling in the missing pieces. One of the most obvious missing pieces is the basically I think it was called the Demon War, and that covers the period of time where Julius Belmont, towards the very end of the Castlevania series, actually defeats Dracula. And I think I've even seen a fan game that is sort of based around this era. And so that gave me an idea of what other gaps in the Castlevania timeline could be further explored. And so not that long ago, I actually replayed through Castlevania Bloodlines for the Sega Genesis. And so what makes Castlevania Bloodlines unique is that it's got two vampire hunters, and neither one of them are a Belmont. One of them is John Morris, who uses the vampire killer whip, and the other one is Eric Ricard, who apparently, the lore is a little bit sketchy, but he apparently uses a spear from, Alucard's armory, which is kind of interesting. But what kind of caught my interest is that there is a giant gap in the timeline. In particular, in the 1800s, the Belmont Clan sort of just disappeared. Part of this absence is explained by Richter Belmont having become so ashamed of being manipulated by the Dark Priest Shaft. He kind of disappears into obscurity, and we don't really know a whole lot as to what happened to the Belmonts after Richter quote-unquote vanishes from history. This is also the time period where Castlevania Order of Ecclesia occurs, and it features Shinoa, and there's a plot line that involves searching for the descendants of the Belmont clan that still live in sort of Eastern and Central Europe. But what kind of got my interest is that at some point the vampire killer whip is transferred from the Belmont clan to the Morris clan. And even more interesting is that the Morris clan is an offshoot of the Belmont clan, according to the lore, and the Morris clan is based in America. So at some point, this offshoot migrates to America, and one of those clan members famously is Quincy Morris, who is featured in Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, and he actually kills Dracula in that novel. And it's kind of that's always been sort of an interesting take, is that that novel is considered canon in the Castlevania mythos, which I always thought was really cool that they incorporated that in. But what kind of caught my attention with all of this was how exactly did that handoff occur? And there's some loose bits of lore here and there, but what I kind of put together was a sort of synopsis, a pitch, if you will, as to a Castlevania game that would cover that transfer from the Belmont clan to the Morris clan. So I've written a little synopsis, if you will, something that would maybe appear on the back of a game box, or maybe as the prologue in a manual, or maybe even communicated throughout the events of the game. And so I'll read it out, and I'll be curious to see what you guys think. So this specifically covers this game would cover the transfer of power from the Belmont clan to the Morris clan. So here we go. The year is 1854, and the Crimean War rages across Eastern Europe. The Russian Empire is at war with a sickly Ottoman Empire. Fearing a revival of Russian influence, an alliance between the ailing Ottomans, the French, and the British is formed, and the combined Allied force bombards the capital of the Crimean Peninsula in the pivotal siege of Sevastopol. Artemis Belmont, cousin of the late Richter Belmont, is on a mission. Guided by a mystic vision from an ancient ancestor, Artemis must smuggle an important and powerful artifact through war-torn Crimea. Rafford Morris, a restless warrior forged in the battles of the Mexican-American War, joins the French Foreign Legion to sate his warrior soul. The French Foreign Legion is deployed alongside French regular forces in the siege of Sevastopol, where Rafford meets Artemis. They learn that they are actually distant relatives, since the Morris clan is actually an offshoot of the Belmont clan. Artemis feels that Rafford is the destined successor from his vision, but Rafford is reluctant. Before Artemis Belmont can convince him any further, they are separated by the forces of hell. Dracula's minions have sensed the waning power of their ancient foe, the Belmont clan, and are hellbent on crushing the warrior lineage here and now. The Grand Vordelach Gorcha, an ancient vampire seeking to ingratiate himself with the Prince of Darkness, attempts to stop our heroes. So that's more or less the introductory narrative that lays the setting for the game. So you've got a famous war occurring roundabout where Castlevania usually takes place. I know the Crimean Peninsula is quite a ways east of what is modern day the Transylvania Plateau, what is modern day Romania, but it's pretty close. And there was a lot of wars going on in that region that you could logically have the Belmont successors in the area. And doing a little bit of research, I read that the French Foreign Legion was actually deployed in this area, so that gives us an excuse to sort of shoehorn in a Morris clan descendant and kind of get them into the same area in the same period of time. And so my idea for the actual game itself is that it would be divided between two main play styles. You would have the Artemis Belmont sections of the game, which would be like mini Metroidvanias, and it would essentially take place in and around Sevastopol during the siege. And so you would have to sort of navigate a sort of urban landscape. It would be, your standard slew of Castlevania minions to fight. And then throughout certain points of the game, you would switch over to Rafford Morris, and his sections would be more of classic Castlevania. More of the sections that you would probably associate with Castlevania Bloodlines, where it's a little bit faster paced, a little bit more atmospheric. And basically, the goal of the game is to reunite these two characters and have this epic trade-off of the vampire killer whip from the Belmont clan to the Morris clan, and then of course Rafford would then eventually pass the whip on to Quincy Morris, who doesn't actually use it, of course, in the novel, but it is sort of hinted at that Quincy Morris passes on the whip to John Morris, who is the protagonist for Castlevania Bloodlines, and then later on, John Morris passes the whip on to Jonathan Morris, who is the protagonist for Castlevania Portrait of Ruin. And so you've got a sort of progenitor, a sort of genesis of where that handoff occurs, and a little bit of lore and a little bit of fun transference of power between the two clans. And another thing I kind of wanted to explore is that we see a lot of, I guess you could argue, Catholic or Eastern Orthodox symbolism in sort of classic Castlevania, and having an American protagonist, which we do. I mean, Castlevania Bloodlines features an American protagonist. So I think having a sort of Protestant-themed vampire hunter would offer some interesting opportunities, some interesting symbolism to explore. Now, granted, Protestantism does not have near as many cool or awe-inspiring symbols as the old churches, the old high churches. But I think there is something there that could be explored. It would definitely be a lot more subdued, I think. But anyway, that is actually. I wanted to keep this video pretty short because I still have a lot of work to do on the ongoing symbolism video that I'm working on. But I just wanted to kind of check in with you guys and pitch this idea. I've got a couple of other Castlevania Missing Chronicle game ideas that I'll probably toss out in the coming weeks as things progress. But let me know what you guys think about this. Would this be a cool idea to explore the transfer of power, especially this period in history where we've got a kind of an interesting war that we don't really have any games, at least not that I'm aware of. Like, it seems like every game nowadays, it's going to be World War II, maybe World War One. A couple things taking place in Vietnam, but you don't really get any wars other than that. And so it would be cool to sort of look at a different war that we don't really get to see represented in games a whole lot. So it would be an interesting backdrop to kind of work a story around. Anyway, I'm going to cut it now, and I will catch you guys in the next one.